The message was never meant to sound that way. But once it was sent, there was no pulling it back, and in that single moment, a tired single dad's life tilted in a direction he never saw coming. As the doorbell rang late that evening, his heart pounded. Standing on the other side of the door was the last person he expected, and the one person who might change everything. Before we jump into this story, take a quick second to subscribe, like, and comment if stories like this warm your heart. It helps the channel grow and lets us keep sharing meaningful stories like this one here on your channel name. Now, let's begin. Mark hadn't planned on being a single dad. Life rarely asks permission before it rewrites your future. 3 years earlier, his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him alone with her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and a house full of quiet memories. Every morning since then had been a careful balancing act, packing lunches, tying shoelaces, answering emails, and trying to look like he had it all together. He worked as an operations coordinator at a mid-sized logistics company in Ohio. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and offered health insurance, which mattered more than anything now. His boss, Sarah Whitmore, was known for being sharp, professional, and fair. She ran meetings with confidence and treated people with respect, but she kept her distance. Mark admired her from afar, the way you admire a mountain, beautiful, steady, and completely out of reach. That Tuesday had been one of those days. Lily had woken up with a fever, the daycare called him twice, and a shipment error at work had caused a chain reaction of problems. By the time Mark finally sat down on the edge of Lily's bed that night, reading her favorite story for the 100th time, his phone buzzed with an email notification from Sarah. She'd asked for an update on the issue, politely but firmly. Mark typed his reply while half listening to Lily drift off to sleep. His thumbs moved fast, his brain tired. He meant to write, "Sorry, I'm exhausted. Long day. I'll fix it first thing in the morning." What Autocorrect sent instead was, "Sorry, I'm enchanted. Long day. I'll fix it first thing in the morning." Mark stared at the screen in horror. His heart dropped into his stomach. Enchanted? Enchanted? He tried to unsend it. He tried to delete it. Nothing worked. The message sat there like a ticking time bomb. He didn't sleep that night. Every scenario played in his head. Losing his job, an awkward meeting, being labeled unprofessional. He even considered drafting a follow-up apology email, but fear froze his fingers. The next morning at work, Sarah acted completely normal. No mention of the message, no cold looks, no awkward tension, just business as usual. That almost made it worse. By the end of the day, Mark had convinced himself that the best thing to do was say nothing and hope it disappeared into the digital void. Then, that evening, just as Mark was helping Lily with her math homework, the doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. Mark opened the door slowly. There stood Sarah Whitmore. She wasn't in her usual work blazer. She wore a simple cardigan, jeans, and a gentle, uncertain smile. In her hands was a small paper bag. "I'm so sorry to show up unannounced," she said softly. I thought it might be better to talk face to face." Mark felt his throat tighten. "Of course, please, come in." Lily peeked around the corner. Sarah knelt immediately. "You must be Lily. I've heard great things about you." Lily smiled shyly. "Hi." Sarah handed Mark the bag. "Chicken noodle soup. My mom's recipe. I remembered you mentioned Lily was sick." That small act hit Mark harder than any lecture ever could. Kindness, unexpected and genuine, has a way of cracking open the walls people don't even realize they've built. They sat at the kitchen table while Lily colored nearby. Sarah took a breath. "About the message, I knew it was a mistake. Autocorrect gets the best of all of us." Mark exhaled, embarrassed. "I'm really sorry. I would never—" "I know," she said gently, "but it made me think." Mark looked up, confused. She continued, "You always stay late. You never complain. You talk about your daughter with so much love. I realized I don't often stop to ask how you're really doing." Mark hadn't expected that. No one ever asked him that. "Not really. I brought soup," she said, smiling softly. But I also wanted to say thank you for being kind, for being reliable, for being human. The conversation shifted from work to life. Sarah shared that she'd lost her father years ago and understood grief more than she let on. Mark talked about the loneliness of parenting alone. There was no flirting, no pressure, just two people offering kindness where it was needed. Before she left, Sarah paused at the door. "Mark, if you ever need flexibility with Lily, or just someone to listen, please ask." After that night, things slowly changed, not in big dramatic ways, but in quiet ones. Sarah made sure Mark could work remotely when Lily was sick. Mark found himself more confident at work, less afraid to speak up. Kindness created a bridge where fear once lived. Months passed. One Friday afternoon, Sarah stopped by Mark's desk. "A group of us are volunteering at the community food bank this weekend. Would you and Lily like to join us?" Lily did. She spent the day handing out canned goods and drawing pictures for strangers. On the drive home, she said, "Daddy, helping people makes my chest feel warm." Mark smiled, realizing kindness had taught his daughter something no textbook ever could. A year later, Mark stood in the same kitchen, watching Lily laugh as Sarah helped her bake cookies. Life hadn't magically become perfect. There were still bills, hard days, and moments of doubt, but there was also something new: hope. All because of a message that went wrong, and a response that went right. Kindness doesn't always arrive with grand gestures. Sometimes it shows up as soup at the door. Sometimes it sounds like understanding instead of judgment. Sometimes it's choosing grace when it would be easier to walk away. Mark learned that night that mistakes don't define us. How we respond to them does. And maybe, just maybe, a little kindness can turn even an autocorrect disaster into the beginning of something beautiful. So as you go about your day, remember this: you never know what someone else is carrying. A kind word, a patient moment, or a simple act of care might be the thing that changes their story. Let's all try to be that moment for someone else.